Hello, my name is Betty Clark, and this is my husband, Dallas Riggin.
Hello and welcome to the Tarpon Springs Unitarian Universalist Church. We are very pleased to be here and to be members. We just signed the book.
Come in and join us.
Consider yourself at home. Consider yourself one of the family. We've taken to you so strong. It's clear we're going to get along. Consider yourself well in. Consider yourself part of the furniture. There isn't a lot to spare. Who cares? Whatever we got, we share. If it's your chance to be, we should see some.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs, located in the heart of the walkable Tarpon Springs Historic District and known as the home of the Innes paintings. We are a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. I'm Reverend Kristina Spaude, minister here of UUCTS. I'm glad you are here. I hope that you find meaning in today's service. Please consider joining us on a Sunday morning when we gather to worship as a community every week beginning at 10:30 a.m. on Zoom, or drop in for a more personal visit to one of our coffee hours starting at 11:30 on Sundays on Zoom. Please refer to our website for information about how to connect with us on Zoom. Our service associate will now begin today's service. Let us enter this sacred time with open minds and open hearts.
Welcome and greetings, dear friends. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. We are so glad that you have found us this day. To those of you who are finding us for the first time, welcome. And thank you for being with us in our virtual sanctuary of the soul. My name is Betty Cummins, and I am pleased to be your service associate today. We offer warm welcomes to all who are with us in our virtual reality. If you've been lonely during our long, troubled time of COVID, with us you will find a warm companionship. If you are afraid, if you have been hurt, if you ache with fatigue, here you will find rest. You will be comforted. Your spiritual wounds will be addressed, and your courage will be returned to you. If you seek to understand, here you will be encouraged in your search. New pathways will be lit for you, and wherever your journeys take you, you will know that you can always come home again to this place, made sacred by our love. We are a church of many welcomes. I welcome you now, and I hope that we can greet you in person on a future pandemic-free day at our location in Tarpon Springs. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the worth and dignity of each human being. Each person on earth has an equal claim to life, liberty, and justice, and no idea, ideal, or philosophy is superior to a single human life. We welcome all thoughtful people to journey through life's mystery with us. We want to walk with you on the way of holiness and happiness, justice and service. We hope that you feel the blessings of love through your time in our presence. As a congregation, we seek to create a diverse and accepting community based on the principles of our faith, Unitarian Universalism, and we are drawn together in voluntary loyalty. We believe that we need not think alike to love alike. Our message today will be brought to us by our very own Reverend Kristina Spaude, and the musical portion of the service will be provided by our musical director, Bonnie Whitehurst. We come now to our chalice lighting. Today we have words by Deborah Burrell, "A flame to light our path." Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sent from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet
Our story for today is called Muddy Children, and it is the story of Hosea Ballou. This comes from the book A Lamp in Every Corner and is written by Janine K. Grossmeyer. Over 200 years ago, in a small house in a small town, on the edge of a forest of very big trees in the state of New Hampshire, there lived a small boy. His name was Hosea Ballou. Hosea, just like other children, liked to learn and do new things. He was always asking questions about what and why and how. And just like other children, Hosea liked to play. He liked to play hide and go seek with his 9 older brothers and sisters. He liked to play word games inside when it was rainy, and he liked to play tag outside when it was sunny. In the winter, he liked to jump into snowdrifts. In the summer, he liked to jump into the creek. In the fall, he liked to jump into the leaf piles. And in the spring, why, spring was Hosea's favorite season of all. Because of spring, it would rain and rain and rain, and then Hosea could jump into the mud. Hosea, just like other children, loved mud. He liked it when it was soft and squishy, and he liked it when it was thick and sticky. If it didn't quite rain hard enough, that wasn't a problem. Hosea would carry water to the dirt and create glorious mud puddles all of his own. He liked to poke sticks into the puddles and see how deep the mud was. He liked to make mud pies and to build mud dams. He liked to jump in puddles hard with both feet and make the muddy water splash really high so that the mud splattered all over his brothers and sisters' clothes. And he loved to step in puddles very slowly so that the mud oozed up just a little bit at a time between his toes. Yes, Hosea loved mud. Now you can imagine that not everybody in his family liked mud quite as much as Hosea did. His mother had died when he was not quite 2, so his older sisters took care of him. One sister, who did laundry and scrubbed the family's dirty clothes in big wash tubs, didn't like having to scrub all the mud off Hosea's clothes and off everybody else's. So after Hosea stomped in a mud puddle extra hard, in order to keep the children clean, she didn't like having to scrub all the mud off of him either. And Hosea, just like other children, didn't like having baths either, especially when it meant he had to stand in a wash tub in front of the fire and have water dumped over his head. But his sisters loved him, so they took him home and washed him and dried him and made him clean. Then Hosea's sisters went to their father and said, "Father, please tell Hosea to stop playing in the mud." "Hosea," said his father very sternly, "you should not play in the mud." "Why?" asked Hosea, because, just like other children, asking questions was another thing he loved to do. "Because," said his father, who was one of the preachers of the Baptist church the family went to, "just as we try to live a good life, to be kind to other people, and to follow God's plan, we try to stay clean." "Yes, Father," Hosea said, and after that day, he did indeed try to stay clean. But it wasn't easy. He stopped stomping in the mud puddles on purpose and splashing the muddy water everywhere, and he stopped making enormous mud pies. But sometimes the mud was just there. Then he had to walk through the mud to get across the yard to gather the eggs from the chickens. He had to walk in the mud to feed the pigs. And sometimes, when he was already muddy from doing his chores, he played in the mud, just a little bit, and got even muddier. His sisters, who loved him, took him home and washed him and dried him and made him all clean. But Hosea's sisters went to their father again and said, "Father, please tell Hosea to stop playing in the mud." "Hosea," said his father even more sternly, "you must not play in the mud." "Yes, Father," Hosea said. He was sad because he had truly tried not to get muddy, most of the time anyway. "Are you very angry with me, Father?" "I am disappointed in you, Hosea, and I am a little angry with you." Hosea hung his head and kicked at the dirt with his toes. Then he dared to look up, just a little, to ask, "Do you still love me?" "Hosea," said his father, and his father didn't sound stern anymore. "I will always love you, Hosea, no matter what you do." "Even if I get muddy again?" "Yes." "Even if I get really, really muddy?" "Yes." "Even if I get mud all the way up to my eyebrows and between my fingers and my toes and in my hair?" "Even then," his father said with a smile. Then he added, very stern again, But remember, Hosea, you must try to stay clean. I'll remember and I'll try, said Hosea. And he did. He stayed clean most of the time anyway. As he grew up, he stopped liking mud quite so much, but he still liked to ask questions about what and how and why. Father, Hosea asked when he was a teenager, how can it be that our church believes that God will let only 1 in 1,000 people into heaven, even if many of those 1,000 people lead good lives? His father didn't have an answer to that question. Father, Hosea asked, if I had the power to create a living creature, and if I knew that the creature would have a miserable life, would suffer and die, and then go to hell and be miserable forever, and I went ahead and created it anyway, would that be a good thing or a bad thing? And would I be good or bad? His father didn't have an answer for that question either. Hosea had to find his own answers. So he read the Bible. He went to some Universalist churches and asked more questions there. At the age of 19, Hosea decided that he believed in universal salvation, which is the idea that everyone, everywhere, everyone in the universe will be given salvation. Eventually, everyone will be saved from hell. And not only did Hosea believe that God would let more than 1,000 people into heaven, Hosea believed God would eventually let everyone into heaven, good or bad. How can you believe that? Asked his father. How can you believe that God would let bad people into heaven? Because, Father, I remember what you told me when I was small. I believe that even if God is disappointed with people or a little angry with them, God will always love them and want them to be happy, no matter what they do and no matter how muddy they are.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love.
Our reading today comes from Victoria Weinstein, Being the Resurrection. The stone has got to be rolled back from the tomb again and again every year. Roll up your sleeves. He's not coming back, you know. He's not coming back unless it is we who rise for him. We who lay healing hands on the reviled and rejected like he did on his behalf. We who rage for righteousness in his insistent voice. We who love the sinner, even knowing that the sinner is no farther off than our own heartbeat. He will not be back to join us at the table, to share God's extravagant banquet, God's love feast. All are invited. Come as you are. And so it is you and I who must feast for him, must say the grace and break the bread and pass it to the left, and dish up the broiled fish, or pour the wine and pass it to the right. And treat each one so tenderly, as though just this morning, she, he, they made the personal effort to make it back from heaven or from hell, but certainly from death, to be by our side. Because if by some miracle, and why not a miracle, he did come back, wouldn't he like to see us like this? Wouldn't it be a miracle to live just for one day, so that if he did, by some amazing feat, come riding into town, he could take a look around and say, "This is what I meant." And we could say, "It took us a long time, but we finally figured it out." Oh, let us live to make it so. You are the resurrection and the life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Stay in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the giving life the shape of justice, roots holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to There is a place for the sadness. Hold on to love. There is a season of gladness. Hold on to love. When pain and confusion seem endless, hold on to love. We cultivate healing through kindness. Hold on to love. dignity means all are welcome. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy's overflowing. Hold on to love. Hold on.
This month's Give the Plate is for the Citizens Alliance for Progress. CAP has been serving Tarpon Springs since 1982. They provide support and enrichment programs for children and families. They have after-school programs, online learning assistance, tutoring, and mentoring. They also distribute backpack meals twice a week for students under 18 years old. They serve as a location for food distribution through the Farm Share and other organizations that provide food assistance. Like every organization during COVID, their resources are stretched and financial support is always appreciated. Please be as generous as you can in supporting their work in our community. During the month of April, you can mail your donation to 57 Reed Street or donate on the church website. Please indicate CAP on your check or select Social Justice Projects online with a comment that your donation is for CAP. And thank you.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, that puts the Lord of bliss to send such perfect peace to my soul, to send such perfect peace to my soul.
This poem is called A Blessing for the Brokenhearted by Jan Richardson. Let us agree for now that we will not say the breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Let us promise we will not tell ourselves time will heal the wound when every day our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for now it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating as if it were made for precisely this. As if it knows the only cure for love is more of it. As if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still. As if it trusts that its own stubborn and persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless. Since the Sabbath's end, the women had been preparing, gathering oils and spices to anoint Jesus' body. Even at his death, he was calling them forward in love and service. In deep mourning and undoubtedly still in shock, the women went through the motions of preparing for this sacred ritual. Anyone who has had a loved one die unexpectedly with no burial or funeral plans arranged can imagine their frenzied distress, needing also to do this in secret, as Jesus' death had been highly political and their own lives were now at risk. I imagine them together, though, the women, working together, carefully, quietly, remembering, lamenting, honoring. I imagine them crying, sharing stories, laughing, reflecting. I imagine their sadness, anger, frustration, despair, the emptiness, numbness, lostness, that feeling of having the rug pulled out from below their feet, their world suddenly turned upside down in the most painful ways, falling, flailing. I imagine them wavering between sharing the comfort of each other and the despair of their great loss. Really, how could they expect a miracle? None of them knew the promise we know of Easter. They had themselves, each other, but I imagine they didn't have much hope, with the apostles and disciples fearing for their own lives. And yet, the women did what they needed to do. Despite the profound ache, their hearts continued beating, and they continued loving. They loved not only their teacher, gone now, but each other. And so now they were comforting each other, turning toward each other, giving themselves to each other even more deeply. Arriving at the tomb at sunrise, the women discovered that the stone had been rolled back and that the tomb was empty. They were confronted with the last thing they had expected to find there: possibility. What they had known to be true was no longer the truth. There was the possibility of something even greater. The possibility of life after death, the possibility of survival beyond the grave. They knew then more than ever how love reaches through all time and space and defies death in the way that only it can, living among the living and bridging to the dead. The possibility that we save each other, that we call each other forward, even when one of us has died. Many people, even the most unexpected among us, may call us forward. Take my grandfather, my father's father, for example. He always seemed to me a rather gruff man. Even when he was trying to be playful or kind, he just really never pulled it off. I really wanted to love my grandfather. I did, but he sure didn't make it easy. Like when I was working for CVS, every time our family would visit my grandparents' house, he would always ask me why the CVS he went to didn't have the sale items in stock or why he could never find them. I tried to answer once or twice, to no avail. So this was how our conversations went. Why don't they ever have this stuff on sale? I don't know. And I could never really wait for them to be over. I was 29 when my grandfather died. My cousin, who delivered the eulogy, described him as a steel-coated marshmallow. More like a steel wool-coated marshmallow, I thought. My cousin continued sharing some warm memories about our grandfather that left me wondering about the man he'd known. A man who had helped teach all of us, my sister, my cousins, and I, to love the Cleveland Browns as is only right, and had bought these plastic inflatable helmets for all of us. Later, when we were older, buying us cases of industrial-sized trash bags and other memories. And I also remembered my sister and grandfather looking at books about Pittsburgh, where my sister lives and my grandfather had been born and raised. Perhaps I had been too harsh. One day, a couple of months after my grandfather died, my dad called me. He had been going through my grandfather's things with his sisters and mother. He'd come across this envelope of items with value really only to my grandfather. His draft papers, his first driver's license, things that wouldn't have been significant really to anyone else. My dad said, there was one picture with those papers. It was a picture of you on the day you were born. I think I managed to get out something brilliant like, wow. I probably cried. It was completely unexpected. I was not my grandparents' first grandchild, but I was their first granddaughter, and I was my father's, their oldest child's first child. During that call, it occurred to me that all those times my grandfather was complaining about the store, every single visit, that in his way, his questionable and deeply frustrating way, that he had actually been trying to find a way to connect. I was angry, sad, disappointed about all the lost opportunities and for the frustration we both must have experienced. And I felt guilty that I hadn't figured it out sooner. How could I have missed it? It seems so obvious now. I still feel how we failed each other, and I carry the reminder of this into my ministry every day. My grandfather's love calls me forward because in my father's phone call, my heart was broken open, and I was offered, we were offered, my father and I, the possibility of something new, the possibility that what we had known to be true was no longer the truth. I sensed a redemption I'd not thought to hope for, that by turning back toward each other, that in that my grandfather and I, giving ourselves to each other, that in our relationship, we would both be saved. Redemption is an act of love, the choice to love. The women who discovered the empty tomb were saved, not because they lived by the laws or spoke a creed, or even because they believed in Jesus, but because they had done the hardest and most profound thing we can do. They dared and risked loving again, loving still. They experienced at the tomb the possibility that we call each other forward in love. That is redemption. That we are saved by a love that will not ever let us go.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can live from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Our closing words today come from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this journey, this road, this path called hope, saving journey, filled with love, with me.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
I hope that you found meaning in today's service. Again, I invite you to consider joining us sometime on Sunday morning when we gather for worship as a community. The service starts at 10:30 a.m. on Zoom. You are also welcome to drop into our Zoom room coffee hour any Sunday at 11:30 for friendly conversation. Please refer to our website for more information on how to connect with us on Zoom. If you use the Connect Online button, it will take you directly to any of our activities. We look forward to meeting you.